If you're in a relationship and you lie, whether it's personal, romantic, sexual, business, you tell a lie, you're going to have to tell another lie. I myself, I'm a person who's a liar. I've lied my whole life in many different ways, and I'd make up more lies and lies, and to the point where I believe myself. And everybody else believed me because they were like, well, fuck, we're exhausted. He's never going to admit the truth. So how do we help each other? We have to find help. I don't have the answers. I just want to bring the light to it. I want people to know that you can make a choice. If you're having a hard time, go to your schools, talk to your schools. I spoke with a friend the other day, and she has a child who's autistic, and the schools did not do anything for her child for quite a few years. This woman's on every advocacy board, group, what have you, every grant that can go to help her daughter and the other kids that are at her school. This lady's been doing this. This has been her dedication for the last 6 years. She has more contacts in politics than probably politicians. She knows every place that can help provide what her daughter needs and the other students. There are parents out there that can do it. Look, I always say this, you can Brockovich it. Erin Brockovich, look what one lady did and helped create to help all those people, and that sadly many people were sick. Justice was. If you think money is a financial justice, that's what it was. But this woman's work made a difference, and it brought light to a lot of things. A lot of individuals can do this. People say, I don't have the time. I can't fight this. I can't find that. There's a lot of things we can fight and a lot of things we choose not to. The internet is a great gift. I think one of the big things getting to the internet with kids is there's so many things on the internet for kids that's conflicting stories. They can look up anything and get conflicting messages. Social media, if your kids are on social media, make sure you're overseeing their social media. Because so many kids, I mean, look at how kids are bullying each other and kids are killing themselves. Social media has some beauty. It also is one of the darkest web creations in the history of the world. But if it wasn't social media, it'd be something else, because there are kids that were bullied and killed themselves when I was younger. So we're not making blame, but we're bringing reality and light to here's a problem. Somebody please do something about it. If you have any questions, anything you can text me, call me. Let us know what we can do. Give us information that we can share. Yes.
I wanted to,
this is Mark, by the way, my producer.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring something I saw recently, and it has to do with all this. I want to get your thoughts on it. If your doctor prescribes you medication without first asking about your diet, your sleep, your exercise routine, your water consumption, whether you have any structural issues, and the stress in your life, then you don't have a doctor, you have a drug dealer. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's probably from someone who's just a little overboard, because the doctors, if you're dealing with a doctor that does that, first of all, it's not a doctor you want to deal with. I'm not going to call him a drug dealer. There are a lot of people that won't tell you any of that stuff. We have people, we ask questions all the time. Now, first of all, I've never met an addict that hasn't dealt with depression or anxiety. You don't come in here because you're happy, wake up in the morning, stick a needle in your arm, or shove a alcoholic tampon in you because you want to have a great day. You want to have a high. You want to figure it out. You want to beat the system. A lot of those questions are asked, and it's the right thing to do is ask. Now, but that doesn't mean that the answers are going to take away from if you need the med. And it doesn't mean that because here's the one thing that I've learned in many people that I see and talk to. Many people lie about their symptoms. Many people don't want to be labeled. Think about it. It's so cool to go to AA. It's so cool to be an ex-drug addict. How cool is it to have an eating disorder? How cool is it for me to be 100 pounds more than I am today? How cool is it? Not very cool to a lot of people. People want to be cool. People don't want anybody to think they're weak. People don't want to be asking for help. They'll suggest things. There are doctors like that, and they are fucking drug dealers. Not because of those questions, because many doctors will ask you all these questions so they get a better idea. And if you're dealing with depression, they're going to say, okay, exercise is good for you. Water consumption, whoever that person was, they need to dunk their own ass. I mean, because that's just ridiculous. Water's not going to change it. It can help you health-wise and all that. That's for sure. But it's not going to get rid of your depression, your anxiety, or a mental health issue. But when it comes to food, when it comes to exercise, when it comes to sleep, a lot of people don't realize, like, cortisol is very important in our body. So there's a lot of symptoms that we have that we don't even know what the purpose of cortisol is. So if we teach our kids about the human body and about the different things in our body and what affects those certain things, I think we have a better chance of helping them, helping the parents, educate the parents. But there are a lot of doctors that are basically drug dealers. It's like anything. There are lawyers who only represent drug dealers or people who are rapists or people who are murderers. And why do they do it? If you really look deep down inside, it's about the money. Everything falls back and about the money. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah. On that one.
And I think, and I'm glad you asked that question, because there's so many things that you have to look at. There's so many things. When I was a little kid, I was a heavy kid. People called me fat, made all kinds of noise about what I looked. And I always thought it was cool to eat a lot because that was my identity. When your identity is something that brings attention to you, but it's a negative attention and you don't really realize it when you get older, damn. Then you realize I let people look at me that way. I was a class clown. I didn't know it. I was the fool. That was my identity. Rather than my identity, and you're not going to really know as a child. When you get to your double digits, 10, 12, 13, 14, you start to see more, you start to hear more, you start to be more involved with other people, your families, other families. You get to see what everybody else does. I remember we had a kid that lived in our neighborhood that never wanted to go home. I always wanted to stay at my family's house because my mother and grandmother always cooked food. My great-grandmother would make all these wonderful things. At his house, it'd be the same thing all the time. Now, parents weren't bad. Parents worked all the time. But he liked what we had, and he was there all the time. And our family was great with it. Her family, his family was great with it. But the reality is families do things different. Look at cultures. There are cultures who don't look at things that are bad. This is how you need to be. You can't talk about this. You don't talk about this. I tell a story here recently. We had a girl come into a rehab. She was 18 years old. This was a while back. 1 or 2 days after her 18th birthday, her parents, or her aunt, brought her into treatment. And what happened was, about an hour later, these two adults came to the fence wanting to talk. Couldn't be her parents. Okay? Now, this is one of the darkest things I've ever had to experience and be part of and hear. And the parents are screaming and yelling and everything. The girl didn't have an ROI, which is release of information where you can talk to somebody, stupid lingo, but lingo that needs to be. And so the girl finally came out and they were like, you need to leave. You can't talk about family. Well, come to find out that the father had been molesting her and her sisters for years. Police were called. The family was arrested there on the spot. The girl didn't know what to do. The aunt, thank God the aunt decided to help this child. Or this girl and those sisters would be in the same predicament. Now, you think about it. You grow up in that. What's your mental health issue like? Not saying every family's that way, but what is your mental health issues? What is your self-esteem about? Are you going to tell people? We talked to this young lady, and she wasn't going to, if the parents hadn't showed up that day, she'd have never talked about her dad. That's the sad part. She was taught never to. But that day, she broke for a moment, and one of the best, hopefully it's one of the best moments. There's a lot of trauma, a lot of things that have to be worked on with this person and her sisters. But again, one thing also, many people out there, they stay in what they know rather than what they want and need. They'll stay in abusive relationships verbally in other ways because they don't know any better. They don't feel they're worth it. They don't feel anybody's going to love them. Or that person's such a maniacal human being, such a predator that they make you feel nobody's going to love them. Nobody's going to like them. We need to help our kids build better support systems, help our kids build better self-esteem, learn boundaries, learn that it's okay to say no, learn it's okay to ask for questions. A lot of things we deal with start when we're younger. Again, we need to help our kids, but I want to let this end by stipulating we need to help the families equally. Because if we don't help the families, we're never going to help the kids. It's going to be the same cycle, whether it's mental health issues, drug addiction, eating disorders, criminal lifestyle. The government's going to be spending more money. Everybody's going to be spending more money. Corporations, people are going to go out on sick leave, or people are going to go on workman's comp because of a health issue caused by mental health or something they use to make themselves feel better, whether it's a substance, a behavior, or food.